It's week 11 is the one that I've got open right now. So to test this, again, open it up, the flash file, .fla in Flash, Control Enter, and what will happen should happen. I hope. There we go. So you have on the first frame, page 1, page 2, page 3. The buttons, as you can see, have a hover state. Remember how we talked about that last time briefly with the images sliding in and sliding out? Are you freezing? Let me know if you get stuck or have questions. Page 1, page 2, page 3, these are all buttons that work. This X theoretically is a button that works, but is not defined as anything right now. You can see it's a button because, of course, the cursor changes. You can define the kind of cursor that you want to use with Flash, depending on what you hover over. You can say, pointer, an X, a hand, all that fun stuff, the text cursor, etc. If you click on page 2, it routes you to page 2. If you click on page 3, it routes you to page 3, and it plays an embedded Flash video. Now, what we'll do is we'll look at how this works and what it's doing and all that jazz. It's relatively simple. So feel free to stop me if you have any questions. Looking at the code, when you look at the timeline, what you see is basically everything here. There's a big mask over the entire stage, I think. For some reason, I'm not quite sure why that's there, because the layer itself is not set to mask anything, it just exists. But looking at the timeline, it looks pretty familiar, right? You have keyframes, you have actions, and you have other stuff. So as you scrub through it, basically what it's doing, you see that it jumps from page 2 to page 3, but you notice on page 3 the video is not there. Does anybody know why that is? Correct. The video is named, if you click on the symbol itself, you'll see that it is named My Player, which is just an instance of a Flash video. And you can import video in Flash two ways. You can go to File, Import, Import to Stage, Import to Library, Import Video. If you import video, usually you get two options. Load an external video with playback component, or embed the FLV in a SWF and play in timeline. More often than not, the first one is a better option because you have a symbol that has the video embedded and it has a link to where the actual source file is. If you choose the second one, embed the FLV in SWF and play in timeline, not only does that increase your file size of the end file, but it makes your timeline huge. Huge, huge, huge. So I'll do that here just to kind of segue real quick. Going to go to File, just on a blank slate, Import Video, embed FLV in SWF and play in timeline. Browse to the same thing. It should be in the same folder here. My Piano. Not going to work. Oh, there it is. Wait, no, is that it? Not sure if this one's it or not. Nope. Well, it'd be helpful if I knew what I was doing here. Basically what you need to do is it'll work with an FLV instead of an F4V, which is this, I thought it was this file format. But we need to open up this video and then convert it to something else. And I'll segue to that in a second. But, one second. Okay. So this here is a video player, an FLV player. What it is an instance of an embedded video. If you double click on it, it'll choke and theoretically will open. What's that? There we go. Not let me do it. If you look at this, the FLV playback here, there should be a setting in here somewhere where it defines exactly what it is. Edit. Nope, not going to let me do it. Well, that's frustrating. There it is. The source is this file, the F4V file. It is just a Flash video format. FLV and F4V are two similar Flash video formats, but some things can read some of them, some things can read others, but one is basically intended to be played through a SWIF, and one is intended to be played standalone. So that's kind of a codec difference. I suppose I should ask, how many of you have ever dealt with video in the past? Codec manipulation? We all know what MP3s are. We all know what WAV files are. It's like the difference between a WAV file and an MP3 file. Certain codecs have larger file sizes. Certain codecs have better quality. And really, it's a fun little dance that you have to play when you're working with video files. Doesn't matter where, what. If you're working with HTML5 video, you're looking at WebM, OGG, MP4, and I think there's another one that I'm forgetting off the top of my head. But basically, to run one single HTML5 video and have it supported on multiple browsers, you have to have 3 versions of the same video file with those different formats and extensions. It's stupid ridiculous, and it's inefficient. But you have to do it if you want to have actual HTML5 video playing in a browser. Background on that, HTML5 video just uses the video tag. You know how you have HTML, you have paragraph tags, all that stuff? Video tag is just a brand new tag they put into the HTML5 spec, but to get it to work, you have to include all of those formats. So that's obnoxious. You don't have to do that with Flash, fortunately, but you still have file format and video compression issues. So let me go to File, Import, Import Video, and try that again. Click on that. It is a F4V. Theoretically, it should work. Theoretically. And for some reason, it all of a sudden did. If you had something that was an invalid format, you could launch Adobe's Media Encoder, which is a crazy awesome, really powerful application that lets you take any kind of, pretty much, any kind of video format and convert it to some other video format. And it allows you to control the bandwidth, the rate, the audio compression, all that stuff in that one, from one to the other transition. I thought I clicked launch, but apparently it's not going. Media Encoder. It's a very, 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 very powerful tool in your tool belt. There it goes. Slowly but surely. So if you look over here, basically this is your queue of stuff to convert. If you click plus, you browse to a file. I've got it on my desktop. Grab this. It'll default to whatever the file format is. You have import and export options. The export options basically are under output. So you can choose over here all sorts of formats: AAC audio, animated GIFs, AVI, which is like a raw video file, FLV, F4V, GIF, H.264, Blu-ray, MPEG, MP3, MPEG-2, MPEG-4, blah, 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 QuickTime, TIFF, waveform, all sorts of magical stuff on the face of the planet. More often than not, when you're working with Flash, you're going to want to choose FLV or F4V. And it gives you different options. Basically, all of these give you different options, different ratios, different compression, different quality, blah, 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 blah. Here, in the middle, you see a summary. The output is basically a different file name, different format, 1920 by 1080, 25 frames per second, VBR, like basically the bit rate and quality and audio codec compression stuff sits right here. You can change and edit all of those here. You can even export it to an FTP folder if you were like uploading to a server elsewhere, which is helpful for a workflow. But if you wanted to change, you know, this F4V to something you could play in QuickTime, just choose QuickTime. You have presets you can choose from, or you can go down here under Video and customize them. And then you can choose the quality, you can choose the resolution, the ratio, widescreen, square pixels, all that video compression stuff. It's really, really, really powerful. And you just have to play with it to get it. But again, all of this only makes sense in the aspect of taking any kind of arbitrary video you've got and converting it to the format you can play through Flash or whatever else. But in this situation, we're using Flash. You can actually take your Flash file, that's fine, okay, and then go to File, Export, and you can export a movie. And then when you export a movie, you can export it in AVI, MOV, Wave, or not a Wave, but you know, AVI or MOV. MOV is probably going to be the most universal to convert to other things. AVI might be tricky, and you definitely don't want to do any of the other ones. Yep, he can, like, so if I export it to the desktop, it'll cook on it for a second. It'll ask you some settings, like the QuickTime settings here, frame rate, colors, etc., etc. Click export, it'll do its thing. Theoretically won't crash. Audio is the same way. You can export an MP3 with it. If you wanted to, but if you have an MP3 and you only need audio, then why do you have a Flash file?
If you don't have the original Flash files, if you only have the SWIFT file or exported, could you use the
You can take a SWIFT and you can place it in an FLA file. It might or might not work, depending on if the files like that he used in the SWIFT were linked externally or if they're embedded inside of it. If they're embedded inside of it, you should be able to just place that SWIFT and then re-export from a new Flash file. But again, if they're linked externally, then they're not going to show up and they're not going to play, so it's not going to export. So, I mean, the linking internal or external is kind of big, especially if you work in a production environment like, say, Gannett, and you have a Flash shell that has a little snippet of code to say, hey, go to this file path on the server somewhere and find that one video file. And whenever you load Flash file, play that video. So we've got video streaming from our Amazon instance servers, and you know it works fairly well, but this doesn't apparently. I'm gonna pause this.